Well, the fact that they are resorting to an act of Congress of trying to keep Donald Trump off the ballot is somewhat humorous, only because they have been unable to do anything productive for our country, really, in the last several decades. So I don't think this is going to come to much of anything. I think this is more pandering to their base to say, to try to stir up their emotions. Everybody knew this was coming. The left knew this was coming. This
Hmm.
was not a surprise verdict. And so they're just trying to stir up emotions, fear monger, spread this narrative that, oh, we must do something to save democracy. So anything that they can come up with, they're going to push it. But it's a big fat nothing burger.
Yes. All right, good. Well, I want to talk about what happened yesterday in New York. Attorney Todd Blanche for Donald Trump sending an 11-page letter to the district attorney there, Alvin Bragg, accusing him and, in fact, his entire office of prosecutorial misconduct. Of course, the case regarding Stormy Daniels will begin later this month. But basically, Blanche is calling out that Bragg has turned a blind eye to their star witness there, Michael Cohen, who is obviously tainted past there. And he says it's basically vindictive. They're trying to put pressure on Alan Weisselberg, who had to plead guilty Monday to perjury. The older 76-year-old second stint in prison for, I think, Doug, something that rarely is prosecuted there. What do you make of Blanche's strongly worded letter to Bragg?
He's got two very legitimate claims, which is number one, you're overly embracing an individual who's got serious perjury baggage. You flip it on its head. If we're in reverse ideologically, everybody would say, you can't possibly believe somebody like that. They're doing that in the Hunter Biden case with people who have unblemished records, people in the military. And they go, you can't believe them. But here, they just willy-nilly embrace Michael Cohen. And then also with Weisselberg, they're putting undue pressure on him. They forced him into a plea agreement on another perjury count, specifically with Hail Marys to get Trump. And it just goes on and on and on. So I think he has perfectly legitimate complaints there.
Yeah, and I know Bragg wants a gag order on Trump. Again, of course, leading GOP candidate. They're going to try. Speaking of, things that maybe shouldn't be said, let's play. I want to revisit this Jenna Griswold soundbite yesterday after the Supreme Court unanimous decision. Let's play what she's saying in regards to who she thinks Donald Trump is.
And Americans deserve to know whether Donald Trump is a qualified candidate. With that said, I'm disappointed in the decision. I think states like Colorado deserve to have the choice to keep oath-breaking insurrectionists off of our ballots. And there's larger implications for federal insurrectionists running for federal office under this decision.
Breaking insurrectionist who hasn't been charged with insurrection, and even if he was, there's no due process there. I mean, do they need to send a cease and desist letter over to her? I mean, this does seem like now it's raising to the point where she's trying to, well, again, the legacy media will give her this platform. Christina, what do you make of her comments there?
Well, yeah, it certainly is election interference. As the Secretary of State, she's supposed to be serving both parties. She's supposed to be serving all parties, I should say, even the smaller parties, all voters in Colorado. And so for her to come out and aggressively basically campaign for one candidate or one position over another, I would say it is an abuse of her position. And I think she's treading dangerously close to trying to influence the election.
Yeah, I kind of have a problem with that. Doug, 20 seconds, your thoughts on her comments there?
No, we don't send her a cease and desist. We send her a copy of the 14th Amendment and tell her to look at Section 5, which says Congress does it. So she can go into all the political rhetoric she wants, but this is a legal question. Congress does this, not the states.